Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose.
Thank you for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast, and this is the 11th in our new series this year of getting to know our opponents. And we're here with a bit of a special episode because I've got two different podcasts on here representing App State. First, everyone watching the ThunderCast ought to be familiar with Dominic Crescetto of Sunbelt Syndicate because they interact with him all the time on social media. He's active on Facebook, on social media groups for just about every Sunbelt team. And then you can see him over on Twitter. I still refuse to call that X, but you see him over there all the time. And I have seen our fans interacting with you on your live shows and everything. They'll chime in with comments. But I am joined by Sunbelt Syndicate App State fan Dominic Crescetto. Dominic, how are you doing?
Good. For those that have taken in the show, you'll see my background's a little bit different today. So I am on the road traveling. So I'm coming to you from a hotel. So hopefully this Wi-Fi stays good for us.
It's probably better than mine. I've had some issues with mine with cutting in and out the last several weeks. I'm trying to get that fixed, but we'll see. We'll see. And also brand new to being on this show, but relatively new to the podcasting world. It's one half of the Armchair Mountaineers, and I'm joined by Wesley. Wesley, how are you?
Yeah, doing well, Russ. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm 1/4 of the Armchair Mountaineers. This is our first season. We started, I think, after our third game this year. So really excited to be a part of not only your podcast, but also just the wider Sunbelt space. Excited to talk some Sunbelt football with you.
All right. So that's how new they are. I thought there were only two of them. Barely interacted with them on Twitter, and I think it's been about 30 minutes or so since I've interacted with them. But welcome to the show. Welcome to the world of podcasting in the Sunbelt, and we got a lot that we're going to cover. Before I get into all that, we're going to get a word from our sponsors at Leasure Oliver PLLC. If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com. So going from the car wreck commercial to the car wreck of a show that I always do, I'm going
I really thought that transition was going to go like car wreck of a season that App State is having.
No. I'm not going to blast you until probably about 15 minutes into the show. So,
Okay.
No, you guys, I know I usually make a running joke that no one that I'm getting ready to interview has been prepared for this question because I don't expect them to watch all of our shows in this series. But before we hit record, I learned that both of you guys actually listened to the last one or watched it, one of the two. So you know what's coming, but I'm going to hit you with it. I always flip the script. So Dom, you're first. Wesley, you're next. Give me your score prediction, exact scores for this game.
Well, Russ, I know you're a pretty good wrestling fan, maybe from the old school days more so than the current stuff, but I almost wanted to give you some Steiner math. You know, we could talk about the early season stuff before we all got set into these rosters that we know now and have been moving forward with. And you'd like to think we've both gotten better. I don't know. Last week's going to put that out a little bit. But anyway, I did some number crunching, and I think we're going to see App State 27, Marshall 32.
Okay. I thought you were going to hit me with 133%, but
I thought about it.
All right. So 32 Marshall, 27 App State. Wesley, how about you?
Yeah, I think Dominic's right in the ballpark. I'm going to go 34-31 Marshall. I think that, for a lot of reasons, Marshall, I think, is going to take this one down in Boone this year. It's a pretty rare year for me to not pick my Mountaineers, but I think for the third straight week, I'm going to be picking against them.
Yeah, it's always frustrating when you have to do that because your heart says one thing and you're trying to be reasonable, realistic says another. I've done that more than I want to, and I feel for you guys. I do, because coming off of a loss like that last week, um, it's got to be difficult, man. Got to be difficult. So now let's work backwards. You guys know how this goes. We started off with the score prediction, which is usually the end. Now we're going to work backwards and see why you guys think roughly along the same lines as Vegas. Vegas had it opening up as a 2-point favorite for Marshall, and you guys are not too far off from that. Within a score, under a touchdown. All right, so let's hit it. Let's talk about the coaches first. I want to know about head coach, offensive coordinator, and defensive coordinator and their seasons so far.
Yeah. Wesley, do you want to start off with anything specific?
Yeah, I'll take it over. Dowell Loggins, our head coach, first-year head coach, was at South Carolina the previous 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
He was definitely hired for his work with Lenora Sellers and also his work with Spencer Rattler. They miss him, I think, in South Carolina a little bit. Play calling the offense. He's also our offensive coordinator and play caller. He likes to emphasize his NFL experience more than his college experience, which I think, we'll see how that translates over the next, year or two. But I think it's been a rough start. Dominic, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just to mention, because you'll hear it on the broadcast in all likelihood, unless they've given up. But Wesley and App State fans know this. They like to hark on how many years he's spent in the NFL. So he spent 17 years in the NFL. He did play football in college. He's a small guy. You'll see him on the sidelines. You almost miss him because of how big all these players are around him. But he did play at Arkansas. He played 50 games, which I did have to look up today because I knew he played, but I didn't know how much. I guess he got brought in as a quarterback and a holder. And I think he did more of the holding than the quarterback play. But yeah, they're going to talk about the NFL experience throughout the whole staff. But he is the one who's brought in some guys that you've probably heard of, and some guys who've had some things to do with guys that were really successful in the NFL. And they're obviously hoping that transitions over. This is the first of a 5-year contract. And I know is Gibson's 5 years as well. How long did he get?
I thought it was 6.
Okay.
I thought it was 6. I'll have to go back and look, but he said that he wanted this to be his last stop, and it was at least 5, but I think it was maybe 6, or maybe it was a option year for 6 or something like that.
They should go ahead and take that if they can. Well, it's cheaper now before he gets more success.
Yeah. So that's the head coach, and I have seen those graphics making their rounds on Twitter about the combined NFL experience of 3 different people, I think, on the staff. But let's talk briefly about offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. You said, Wesley, that he handles the offensive coordinator duties, but is that also the title, or do we have somebody else that is actually the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, nobody else is the offensive coordinator. He's handling those duties. It's been an interesting year as that goes. I remember after our first game, there was an interesting comment about we passed a lot in our first game. We also, this past game against JMU, schemed to pass a lot. And he got asked after the game, why did you pass so much? He said that's kind of what he did because no one told him to do otherwise, which kind of tells a lot about not only the play calling, but also kind of the situation at App. We've got a first-year head coach that has never been a head coach before, and he's learning and trying to figure that out. I think that we're 4-6 right now. If we lose this game, we're going to be 4-7. If we lose Arkansas State, we're going to be 4-8. I would not be surprised to see a shift going into next year with the offensive coordinator play calling duties, frankly, but that's a little beyond kind of what we're talking about in this podcast, but it's definitely a point of discussion right now.
Defensive coordinator, how are we looking over there?
Yeah, DJ Smith played it out. He took over this year as our defensive coordinator. He followed Eli Drinkwitz in 2019, at the end of the 2019 season, to Mizzou, where he was the linebacker coach. Obviously, they went 20-5. before he came back to join us on the mountain. Played for us and came back.
Yeah, he's going to be adding 4 years of experience to that NFL experience, but his was playing experience. He did not coach in the NFL, so he had a couple cups of coffee, as they say, in a couple spots. He was drafted by the Packers, though, so he was good enough to get drafted. One of the best of all time to ever do it at App State. Was just inducted, Wesley, what was it, 2-3 weeks ago into the Hall of Fame at App State?
That's right. Yeah, I want to say it was the Coastal Carolina game.
I think you're right. I will say TJ and I from the Wednesday show, when we preview everything, TJ played with DJ, a lot of J's in there, but both of us were harking big time to get DJ Smith the head coaching job. Obviously, they didn't listen to the podcasters. I don't know why you would do that, but no, we really thought that he could help bring back some of the old players and get that history and tradition as strong as it's ever been as part of the coaching staff. Sean Clark obviously was doing a lot of that as well. Unfortunately, his tenure did not work out, but we thought DJ could kind of continue that as being a part of this staff. And I don't know exactly where that sits. I've seen some other older players come back. They're going to actually do another thing this week for Marshall, where they have the one of the championship teams coming back. So I haven't seen a huge push necessarily, but hopefully maybe in the background, we're not hearing or seeing some of those things happen.
This is going to be a theme for us, I think, all show. Just winning cures all. We are not winning. So the things that start off looking really good are going to be in flux right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is not my place to talk about app and things like that, but how many times have you seen when a new coach comes in, and I'm talking like now in the transfer portal era, before the transfer portal era, before NIL, after NIL, they come in and it takes them a year. You got to get a full recruiting cycle in. You've got to get your players in. You've got to get your scheme going. There's some learning curves for first year head coaches, all that different things. And year one, fans, short for fanatics, we always we overanalyze. We're always going to go 3-9, because we went that way the first year. And you'll see some people calling for heads after 1 year, and then 2-3 years into it, when they're 10-2 and they're in the conference championship game, those same fans are not calling for those heads. So, you got to give them time to build. And I don't think that it's any time to be alarmed about anything. Just let the culture get instilled, let the play calling, even out and all that stuff. It's going to be fine. It's always going to be fine. Let's now talk about something that was not fine last week, and that's the offense. I'm not here to beat you guys up. You guys feel it way worse than I did.
Yeah, JMU already did the beating, so.
Yeah. We're talking about an offense that got 1 yard rushing, but it hadn't been that way all year. So let's talk about the quarterback. Let's talk about the offensive line that blocks for all these guys, your stable of running backs, and those that the quarterback's throwing to, the receiving core. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, we run a multiple offense, so lots of different schemes each week. I think that our offense has looked vastly different depending on who we're playing. I think Dowell likes to look at matchups, so Coach Loggins looks at who we're playing and kind of schemes that way. Starting with the quarterback, AJ Swan was injured last week. We're waiting on some news from him today in the presser. Coach Loggins said that he was going to get some news later today. He doesn't like to share a lot of news in press conferences, which I kind of respect. I like that, taking some edge. Obviously, as somebody who's talking about the team on our podcast twice a week, it sometimes gets frustrating, but I like sometimes that he keeps it close to the chest. But JJ Cole will likely play, I believe. He played in some games for us, so came in and started against Oregon State, and played pretty well. Was efficient with the ball, start to finish. 218 yards, but just under 50% completion rate. We did end up winning that game. Against Georgia State, he looked really good. 309 yards passing, was taken out of the game. Probably could have gotten a lot more. Against Coastal Carolina, Also, another decent performance from him. Stalled late, but played decently well. I think about 65% completion rate in that game, and then was taken out in the fourth against Old Dominion to get a spark. AJ Swan kind of let it come back and kept the job from there. So JJ Cole again came in late in dead time against a secondary that was definitely not the starting crew for James Madison. Went 6 for 8, 75 yards. We scored on the drive. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of an analysis of quarterbacks. Do you have anything to add, Dominic, to that, or maybe want to get into running backs as well?
Well, I think one note that we can let everybody know, and actually is funny, the first time I actually met Wesley in person was last Saturday, or just a few days ago at this point, at the James Madison game. So we both took that game in person, which gave us a different perspective than watching it on TV and seeing these things up close. I don't know if Wesley's will agree with me, because we haven't had this conversation on the side, but I actually thought both head coaches left their starting quarterbacks in that game far too long. Alonzo Barnett was actually lucky not to get an injury, as one of our defensive guys slung him out of bounds, which, I don't know, questionable late hit, but when you sling the quarterback pretty far out of bounds, you're going to get the flag. He did not get injured. Unfortunately for us, Swan was actually kind of injured with his wrist earlier in the game, continued to play through it, said he wanted to play through it, at least according to coach's presser today, and then ends up getting taken off the field with the golf cart and an air cast. So I personally believe he probably won't touch the field for App State the rest of the season. Could have been very precautionary the way they handled it. I think Wesley was actually right in line with the person running towards the sideline to grab the air cast. So it did not look good. And so I just, like Wesley, expect Cole to go. One thing I do want to note, though, that Logan says this throughout the season, we're going to go through a week of practice and then kind of name our starter. And it really, truly shows that they really are on par when you look at the completion percentage for both quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. AJ Swan sits at 58.6. JJ Cole's 58.7. So neither one is light years ahead of the other. As Wesley said, Georgia State was easily Cole's best game and could have been even better. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions with that 309 yards. He does come from Iowa State. You're going to notice him. He's 6'7", 245 pounds. So even while he wasn't playing at James Madison, when he was walking the sidelines, pretty easy guy to pick out of there. But he is not a rusher. Wesley can tell you that. Swan could get out of the pocket, make some things happen with his feet. Didn't do it often, but he could do it. He was a little bit more fleet of foot. JJ Cole definitely has that 6'7" build, like a basketball center who, athletic, can reach up high, but not necessarily fast. I wouldn't call him. So don't look for him to beat you out of the pocket. But statistically, very strange. He is our third leading rusher. I did see that earlier. Wesley, that caught me off guard. I don't know how that managed to happen. He maybe can fall forward with that 6'7" frame and get something, but he is not going to beat you with his legs Saturday.
Right. No, he's definitely not. And kind of funny that you bring up rushing. One of the reasons that I think he came out of the game against Old Dominion was a play that's kind of been talked about a little bit among the fan base, where he just didn't go for the first down. He didn't put his body out there enough. And I haven't heard a coach say that, but I've heard a lot of fans maybe muse about that. So it's been something we've talked about. But again, I think JJ Cole and AJ Swan, there isn't a ton of difference. We'll talk a little bit later about, kind of the keys to the game that I think the Mountaineers will need to compete or even win this game. And turnovers are going to be a big one, especially in the red zone. JJ Cole and AJ Swan have both had their fair share of turnovers down in the red zone. To kind of move into the run game, we've got a great tandem going on the year, Rashad Dominion and Jakari Lewis. At the start of the year, it looked like we were just going to be kind of a one-back system, but we've slowly eased Jakari Lewis in there with Rashad Dominion, who has been our leading rusher so far this year. And Rashad Dominion is a punishing back, kind of unique in the build for us, probably. And it's been almost 10 years since we've had a back that punishes quite the way he does. We did not get him working at all against James Madison. I think we ran the ball about 10 or 11 times, obviously took a bunch of sacks and into the game with 1 yard rushing. So aside from some early, first few drives, rushes, we didn't get him worked in. We're definitely going to need to do that to be able to compete at all against y'all. Do you have anything to add, Dominic, to the Rashad Dominion, Jakari Lewis discussion?
Yeah, interestingly enough, I feel like I've seen Dominion score more than this year. He's technically only got 4 touchdowns, which also a weird statistic. Jakari Lewis, who does not touch the ball as much, also has 4 touchdowns. So an equal, near the goal line situation type of thing. 2 different style backs. As Wesley said, Dominion is fun to watch if you like that old school hard-nosed football. One little side note, I'll say this. The way that I watch this team, it's not great, right? The record shows that. But the individual talent, and sometimes you can see the performances. Sometimes you can't because the game didn't go their way. But the individual talent may put more people into the NFL than we have in recent years with better teams, if that makes some sense. I think Dominion's definitely one of them. We'll talk about the wide receivers as well. But Dominion, to me, has that NFL-level talent. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to be drafted, but at least get a shot into the NFL at the running back position, because he just plays like he's got that next level intensity, which is usually that thing that you see maybe some other guys struggling with at the college level.
One last note on Dominion. He just continues to work hard week in, week out. During the game against James Madison, he stayed on that workout bike. He was hitting the workout bike in the 4th quarter with us down 1 million points. No chance to win the game. He was still on the workout bike, trying to stay loose without the carries. To move into the wide receiver room, I've loved watching them this year. As Dominic said, they have been amazing for us. Jaden Barnes mostly plays in the slot. You'll see him up and down the field on Saturday. If we have a chance to win, it's going to go through these guys. So Jaden Barnes, Davian Dozier, slightly bigger, lines up outside. He's a big play target and a dangerous guy downfield if JJ Cole ends up airing it out that way. And Dalton Stroman, he's been with the program several years, but another threat wide out. And, these guys have been great. Isaiah Cummings at tight end was a real threat earlier in the year. He went out with injury, kind of as this 4-game losing streak kind of got into full swing, and that's been a huge loss for us in the receiving game.
I got one little question here, just looking at these, and obviously I haven't watched every play of every game that App's had this year. But your running game, Dominion looks really good with his stats here. A long of 39, and Lewis has a long of 27. Then you get down here to receiving. You've got your top 3 has 59, 72, and 68 on the long. Is this like big play waiting to happen receiving all year long? Is it feast or famine? I see here, you're looking at 58.6, 58.7%. Is that what we're looking at? Is it's not the dink and dunk, it's home run, and then incompletions? Is that what we're looking at?
Incompletions and missed catches. I mean, as Wesley said, these guys have a lot of talent. They're getting open, but there is a little bit of a drop issue. It's not terrible. I think most of the drops mostly are contested. Obviously, there's been a few that are just kind of ugly, kind of wide open. Should have had it. Wesley can answer this too. I don't really like our dink and dunk game is not good. No. We've seen like stuff go back, and it's essentially becomes a lateral, and we're losing yards on those quick outs, those quick screens to the sidelines. I don't like that game. Marshall has seen Wayne Knight. We just saw him this weekend. We don't have a Wayne Knight. We do not get a running back to go out and catch as well as he runs. Dominion can catch the ball. Typically when he's asked to do so, he's making the catch. But again, just not enough help to get downfield fast enough. And as you can see with the average and I guess the long there, Dominion's not necessarily the fastest guy. He's not your fastest running back, and that's due to the size and strength of him and his body. But it's just we don't have a utility knife like Wayne Knight, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think to use the term feast or famine, Russ, like you did, I think that's a great way to describe it. When we were winning earlier in the year, obviously to lesser opponents, that's a big storyline for later. We were doing really well with those, extended pass plays. Mm-hmm. Not been as successful with those. Against JMU, we mostly tried to air it out long, mostly to the sidelines. It didn't work at all. there was not a lot of continuity in our play calling against James Madison. We did not establish the run, and just inside of the offense, I don't think it was very complimentary. And then it certainly wasn't complimentary to our defense, as we get into that here in a few moments.
All right, final question is about this offense. Is those big guys in the trenches, giving up an average of 2.5 sacks a game, but your leading rushers over 5 yards a carry. Tell me about these guys with kind of the discrepancy there. You guys are not rushing well as a team, 3.8, but a lot of that's the sack yardage that's bringing that down. You look, you got 4.1 from Lewis and 5.1 from DeBinion, but down at the bottom, negative 2.6 yards a carry. That's just all lost sack yardage, by Gillian. And then Swan is at negative 12 yards on the season. Tell me about these guys in the trenches, because what I'm seeing here looks like, hey, they can block, but run blocking may be a little bit better than pass blocking. Is that what we're looking at?
Big narrative is injuries. We
have
gotten worse as the season has progressed, but even in the first game against Charlotte, which has turned into not a quality win for App State, to say the least. Not that any of our wins really have turned into quality wins. But in that game, the quarterback was getting hit. AJ Swan was delivering a lot of really great passes, but it was under duress. He was getting hit a lot. That has stayed true throughout the season, but I think our offensive line has gotten weaker with some injury losses, particularly on the right side. Coach Logan said it in the presser today that the right side is really, really, really damaged. That's where you're seeing our weakness. And I think that's going to continue. We're going to have to learn how to scheme against that, and maybe hopefully coach up some pocket awareness to maybe move up and get the ball out faster. Maybe even build on some, Jaden Barnes short routes, things like that.
All right,
yeah,
so let's
say.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well,
No,
my dad played Division III football a long time ago, but he was with me at the game against JMU here, and he had an observation that I probably couldn't make to any level, but I'll simplify what he said, which was, this seems like the slowest team App State's had in a very long time. And a lot of that is to do with the offensive line, just kind of missing that first step to get that block. And I think part of it is, like Wesley alluded to, sometimes the quarterbacks aren't helping the line or themselves by holding onto the ball too long. And that is due to what we said, which is looking for the big play downfield. So if you wait too long for that, obviously you're not doing yourself or the O-line any favors. As you said, they can open up holes. They're decent at doing that, but this isn't the strongest line that App State's had, and probably one of the weakest in the last, I don't know, probably more than a decade.
I'm a baseball guy, and I have used the analogy that, you don't always steal off of the catcher. You can have an all-world catcher with the greatest pop time ever, and you can steal as many bases as you want off a pitcher. So I kind of view that sometimes sacks are the offensive line, and sometimes it's the quarterback. So that's my little baseball analogy that nobody cares about. But let's switch over and talk about this defense now. You got some good stats and playmakers and stuff. So let's hear about it.
Yeah, I'll take it away. It's a lot of bend, don't break. That's what my guys on Armchair, that's what we like to talk about. It's sort of a base 4-2-5 multiple, but you're going to see a lot of different versions of that multiple. And I think against Old Dominion, I think it was just a straight up 3-3-5. So don't be surprised if you see something else this weekend. Lots of soft zone, lots and lots and lots and lots of soft zone. We will give up the short play in lieu of the big break. I think that's why you've seen, especially recently, some of our scores have been lower against Georgia Southern, against Old Dominion. A lot of those games became a lot more possession based in the second half. And I think that was schematic and on purpose. Coach Smith and Coach Loggins definitely seem to be scheming the end that way, but you're going to see us give up a lot of 5-10 yards, 5-10 yards, 5-10 yards. And then you're going to see our defense battle in the red zone. Our defense typically tightens up in the red zone. That's sort of just soft knowledge. Against Oregon State, we won a game that way. big issue. It was a huge issue for us last year. It's continued to be an issue this year. Our defense is not necessarily the most disciplined defense in the country. We give up a lot of penalties. That's a broader problem that we can talk about across the team. I think we're 125th in the country in penalty yardage, which is not good, to say the least. So yeah, and pass rush, our pass rush is really non-existent this year relative to past years. I think what we are used to as App State fans, it's been a good bit weaker. We aren't terrible against the run, but it's certainly not something that we're not preventing it from happening completely.
Yeah, I'd say that the bend but don't break is perfect because, I think our secondary is a little bit weaker than it has been in years past. Usually have like a name or two that really stands out and has for a few years. Obviously with transfer portal era, that kind of stuff is changing all the time. But we have Zaire Gamble back there, who's the second leading tackler on the team, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles. He's definitely the kind of the highlight of the secondary. And then not a whole lot of other guys sticking out. I think the line itself has been pretty good. And the bend but don't break thing coming back around, like even in the James Madison game early on, it didn't stay the whole time, but we'd stop them, Wesley, like on first and second down, not allow much more than 3-4 yards. Then the third down would be like not just the first down, they would go for 24, and so it was like, yeah, stop them, let up the big play. And now, that gets frustrating and guys, probably gets into their head, like we just can't do anything to stop these guys. Well, you were doing it earlier. It just didn't kind of stay consistent enough for you. But just some names to throw out that you might notice on the defensive side: Colton Ferris, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions on the year. Caleb Sandstrom on the line. Kevin Abram Burwayne both had pretty good games against James Madison, all things considered. And then Aiden Benton and Rondo Porter are 2. I focused on the line because I think that's kind of, if they're getting back into the backfield, the defense overall is going to have a lot more success, because if you're able to air it out with CDR and your wide receivers, then App State's defense is going to be in a little trouble.
Yeah, I think the secondary has definitely been the weakness for us, as you were saying. And again, it's in short yardage situations, our defense does a really good job of stopping the run. But it's that sometimes I think quarterbacks are able to develop all their reads fully because our pass rush just isn't getting back there fast enough. And that's what happens on third down when it's, 3rd and 8 or 3rd and 6, and all of a sudden they air it out and get a big chunk play because our secondaries let something up. But a part of that is we're allowing quarterbacks to go through that full progression. At least that's the way I see it.
I have a couple of interesting stats that I want to talk to you guys about. I usually do some over-unders, and this time I'm picking out interesting stats. I may have some over-under stuff later, but let's talk about 4 pass deflections by Porter on the defensive line. I mean, that's great for a defensive lineman, to get his hand up and things like that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, great awareness.
Go ahead.
You got it.
All right. Well, I mean, Porter has 4, Sandstrom has 2, Verwayne has 2. So these guys are getting back there enough to get that hand up and be close enough, even if they're not getting the sack. So again, they're there. They're just not quite, all the way there all the time. So you're going to see them get toward your quarterback more often than it shows up on the playbook or the scoreboard or whatever you want to say there. But yeah, I mean, these guys fundamentally are making the right place. It's just not happening maybe enough. But again, I fault them the least out of everybody on the defense, to be honest. I think that's the most solid aspect of this defense that exists.
So the reason I bring this up is usually when you see a batted ball by a defensive lineman, that is a recipe for a pick six or at least an interception or something. Have there been any of those from the defensive line's tip that you can recall? Because that is going to play into this game, especially if you're doing some of the shorter pass plays or throws over the middle and a guy gets his big paw up and knocks it into the air.
We just saw one, Wesley, against James Madison. Actually, I think the game may have been 3-0 or maybe it was scoreless. But yeah,
I think it was still scoreless. Yeah, it was in that first scoreless. was a big moment. I mean, it felt like one of those moments. Okay, we're in for a dogfight. Obviously, that did not be the case. We gave up a pick really shortly after. But yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of that this year. I mean, we've had some interceptions as well. A big one to win against Oregon State that was on the secondary. But yeah, I mean, I think it plays a big part them, getting back there and affecting change that way. And I think honestly, when you think about the defensive struggles we've had, and James Madison was a really heightened version of this, the complementary football question becomes really important. When you're just 3 and out over and over and over, you're setting your defense up for a failure because those guys on the line are just out there all game, and the offense is just able to kind of run wild on them. I think that especially against James Madison, that kind of turned into a spiral, especially because on their defensive front, they're rotating 13 guys in that front seven. And so every time App State would come out on offense, they were going against fresh legs. Their offense dominated time of possession. And so I think that's been a bigger problem with our defense. Again, those guys, they've done a great job batting down those balls. And for the most part, actually, they've done a great job playing contain with rushing quarterbacks, aside from the Georgia Southern game. It's just been an issue of, our secondary is leaving a lot of holes open, and I do think we're not maybe getting to the quarterback as fast as we're used to as App State fans. I do think DJ Smith is doing a good job coaching these guys. I think a part of just that batted ball play in the backfield is good coaching and good situational awareness from the linemen. So.
All right. Also, I have to point out that Ethan Johnson has 0 interceptions, but has more than 1 pass deflection, 1 pass breakup per game. What's going on there? Is he targeted a lot, or is he just really, really good at breaking up passes?
From what I can remember on a couple plays, it's more of like that getting there right at the last second, probably not really, where some of those interceptions almost become easy, where the DB turns around and it's landing in his lap type of situation. Mm-hmm. He's not necessarily seen that type of play. He's probably going against the team's better receivers for the most part. And just, anything to break that pass up is probably all he's trying to do at that point. And just which I like, right? Just make the smart play and take the incompletion. I don't necessarily want to see you try and make some acrobatic thing happen, and then it pops up into the air, and the receiver just stands there and grabs the ball out of midair. Yeah.
All right, let's switch over to special teams, where you can really see games won. You can see the field getting flipped. You can see those field goals come in clutch, even to win games and things like that. And let's talk about it. I want to hear about your kicker. I want to hear about the punter, and then I want to hear about any return guys you guys may have.
Yeah, I mean, Jaden Barnes has done a great job in the return game. Not to flip the order, but Jaden Barnes is fast. He's shifty, and he's been pretty quick back there. Dominic DeFreitas has been great. Again, he was probably the highlight of my night on Saturday, making that 48-yard field goal to prevent that goose egg. I had a lot of students at James Madison walking by me just doing this. So to change this to change that goose egg to a 3 was a big deal for me. So Dominic DeFreitas, but I think just on the year he's been great and has been a really reliable part of our game. Ian Ratliff has been decent at punter. Again, I don't think I'm never thinking about the specialists. I'll just say that, which in college I think is a really high compliment. I don't know if you have anything to add, Dominic, but I've been happy with our specialists this year.
Yeah, I'll start with where you ended. I absolutely agree. Like when it's time to punt the ball or time to kick the ball, I really don't have any concern. Which is, like you said, that's a great thing, because we've had those years where we're like, oh man, here we go. Let's see what happens. Right. Ratliff's been solid. I mean, it's hard for me to grade a punter necessarily because I don't know exactly what should be standing out the most. He's had 6 inside the 20. Only 1 touchback all season, so he seems to have pretty good placement for where he's putting the ball. He's got 4 punts over 50 yards. He's at an average of 48 yards for the season. He hasn't had any blocked, so a credit to his blocking team as well there. DeFreitas, 28 for 28 in extra points. Never concerned about that. And 13 of 16 overall on the season. All 3 misses were from that 40 to 49-yard range. So short yards, again, we're just not concerned about it. I don't really have problems seeing him attempt anything over 50 as well. Again, that's where his percentage goes down, of course. But a big game situation, I don't think it would be too big for him. I think he's got the leg for it. Is the wind a factor, or somebody get a hand on a lower one to try and get that trajectory where it needs to be for a long one? Maybe. But as far as like if no one was out there, I think he could make them all. And I think Wesley, remind me, I think he's a true freshman as well, right?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So we got, hopefully, we know portal stuff is going to be crazy, but hopefully we have him for a few more years.
True freshman, as Dominic was saying before we started recording, hopefully he can stay and be a part of what we're building on the mountain. He's been great so far this year. I'd love to see him around for a few more.
Little foreshadowing for everybody that's going to be watching our preview show here. I got to talk about Ian Ratliff, and I don't know if Dominic, if you know what's coming or not, but he was here at Marshall in 2025.
Right.
Came in for a cup of coffee. We signed him as a transfer out of Texas, and he came over here, and he then left after the spring. And we'll get into it a little bit more in our show. But you talked about the stats and how he's doing. But right now, we're pretty happy with our punter who leads all of Sunbelt in every category. And he is, I think, but he is right now, if he finishes at the yardage that he is, he will be the single season record holder for punt yardage ever at Marshall. So we're pretty happy with the guy we got.
Yeah, I heard y'all talking about how this might be the best group of specialists y'all have ever had. But then y'all listed some other guys that were great too. So
yeah,
that's a mission for y'all a little bit.
Yeah, it's been really good. I usually these episodes are not talking about Marshall and it's all about the opponent, but I had to kind of bring that in. For someone listening to this, they might say, "Where have I heard Ian Ratliff? Where have I heard Ian Ratliff?" Well, he was just here until May. So, all right. So we have talked about your score predictions. We have talked about the coaching staff. We've talked about the offense. We've talked about the defense. We just talked about special teams. Now let's talk about what is important. Tell me about some food in Boone for everybody that is coming down and making the trip, including yours truly. I'll be down there taking it in. It'll be my second trip, and I'm hoping to increase some of those culinary experiences that I have from 2023.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to go hungry in Boone. Lots of amazing spots. Stick Boy Kitchen and Stick Boy
Love it.
Bakery.
Love it.
Amazing. Yeah, you already know. Get some Hatchet coffee in there, some pastries. I wrote down some other stuff. Boonshine Brewing is awesome. Appalachian Mountain Brewery is also. If you're buying beer for the tailgate and you don't just want to walk into a brewery, Peabody's Wine and Beer Merchants is where I always go. And those guys have been doing a great thing for, I think they've been open since the 70s, but the current regime has been there since the late 90s, early 2000s. So those guys have been in there forever. They do such a great job. I mean, that place is stocked really well. The Cardinal is, in my opinion, the best burger in Boone. You're going to actually be able to
there
in the stadium. So if you're willing to brave the People's Republic of the Hill, or Miller, if you're able to brave the hill, experience for you. There's a burger. The park will be right there. But yeah, as Dominic was saying, it's maybe a risky bet at best to go wade over there. Comeback Shack burgers are also great. Moses Cone Park is great for just a light hike on Sunday. If you're, maybe you had a few beers and maybe a Stick Boy pastry and a Cardinal burger and all those things. It's a great place to walk that off. And Vidalia, I love for like a more upscale restaurant kind of vibe. But yeah, there's no shortage of good places. I mean, if something isn't good in Boone, it's not going to survive. Like everything, most places in the high country are awesome. So Dominic, what do you have to add? I would love to hear your Rex.
Well, I'll double down on the Comeback Shack because it's kind of the quicker fast food type option. So it's not really going to break the bank. It's nice, greasy. If you're going to be indulging on game day, it's definitely going to help you either soak that up before or after. They have 2 locations. So they have the one that they've had on 321, which is not far at all from the stadium. But with traffic, you might be waiting a little bit. If their traffic is bad once the game's over, then you could walk downtown, as I did the last time I was in Boone, and go to their second location that, again, within pretty decent walking distance of the stadium. You're going to see a lot more college kids at that one because there's not as many cars involved. But again, we went last time, it was slam packed, and we still had food pretty quick. I was very impressed with the service there. The quality is very good. It's not your typical slam the hamburger with a sledgehammer before they hand it off to you type situation. Stick Boy Kitchen, I'll definitely double down on. I used to work at that place before it was Stick Boy Kitchen, before Stick Boy bought it. Stick Boy has long since existed in Boone, right across the street from campus. I worked at a place called Mountain Bagels. We make our bagels fresh there. Stick Boy Kitchen is also doing the same thing. There's another place in Boone that I won't mention by name because they bring them in frozen. People like that place. I don't recommend it because of that. I like the fresh stuff. Stick Boy Kitchen is very good with the breads and pastries. But there's one other one that I'll recommend as well. It's one of my personal favorites, and not enough people mention it. It's a little donut shop called Local Lion. And one reason is just the quality and what you're going to get once you go there. The other reason is it's a Boone staple to me. Like, it feels like Boone. You're not going to go in there and get treated like Starbucks. You're in, you're out. It's not. They do have a drive-through, weirdly enough, but again, you got that. You're going to see people in their flannels, hanging out, having a coffee, doing homework. They don't care that there's a football game in town, but it's got good quality stuff. I really love the ambiance. If you just want a slow start to your morning before the craziness of a tailgate and a game, highly recommend Local Lion.
So we went to Stick Boy. We went to Local Lion. We went to the Cardinal after the game last year. Went to the Local because it was one of the only places on Friday night that was open. I was like, this is the quintessential college town, and I got here in plenty of time. We went into, I think it was Coyote Kitchen, and I went in, and it was like 55 minutes before their closing time or something, and I walked in and no one would even walk up to the hostess stand or anything. Finally, I flagged somebody down, and they're basically like, what do you want? And I was like, wanted to see if we could get, and they're like, oh, we're not seating people anymore. And I was like, all kinds of seats. They're like, yeah, it's too late to try to get something out of the kitchen. And I was like, all right. So we went to the Local. So I have been to those places. Local Lion, I paid for a sticker to put on the beer fridge out in the garage and things like that, right next to my Sunbelt Syndicate sticker. Yeah, I've had a great time. I do want to check out some new stuff while I'm down there, but I cannot get out of town without going back to Stick Boy for breakfast. So, yeah, so I'm going to listen to this on the way down, have my wife, typing in these places and everything that Wesley mentioned and Dom mentioned, and we're going to hit it up. Let's talk real quick about, people coming down, where to park, where to go tailgate, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's a whole different can of worms.
Yeah.
I do know that if you don't have parking already arranged, there are some lots right on King Street as you turn onto King Street that fill up pretty quick. But if you're in Boone, I think by 11, I would say that's kind of the edge. You can park in those lots, like Lowe's Food, or not Lowe's Foods. It's escaping me. It's Earth Fair. You can park at Earth Fair. There's a realty office that it's $20-$30 to park in. So there's some places like that'll accept donations. I know First Baptist does,
which is right there too. Yep.
Pay, and that's just further in. It's actually less of a walk, and you can actually tailgate there. I somewhat. So yeah, there's definitely places. I mean, if you're on campus and want to kind of see the tailgating spots, Peacock Lot is right before you walk up the hill to the stadium. That's an iconic spot. Those lots all in there are great. Yeah, I don't know what you have to add, Dominic, but parking is tough. I think maybe go online and look up some parking before you head to Boone.
with how the season has gone, there will be people selling parking spots, unfortunately. So if you are on the lookout, I'm not recommending that hardcore because there are scammers out there. So just be careful. But you probably could find some trustworthy people. Do your homework. The right people will show you a picture enough of that spot and make sure. But they're not digital, so they are physical. If you're not up on game early enough, that's just probably not going to be a possibility unless they agree to meet you in town because they have somebody else's pass. I think along King and Queen Street, really, there's now a new parking deck, I believe, Wesley, that's decent size. I believe that's going to be also used. That's really the only other thing I can think of, unless they're allowing people to drive all the way up to the baseball field to pay possibly as well. It's above the stadium. You kind of walk down through the woods to some extent, some stairs. Not the greatest for anybody who's got trouble with the knees and slopes. I wouldn't recommend that. No. But it is Boone. So and Huntington's probably not that different with having to deal with these things when you're walking to places like that. But I do think you will be a little luckier, as Wesley said, to come a little bit later than you typically would on a really good year when you're out of luck if you're not there by 9:30, type of situation. I think there'll be a little bit more luck with the parking aspect.
Yeah, just as a sidebar, when you said parking, I thought about this. Russ, we came up for a game in 2022 in Huntington. So it was a rainy, cold, miserable game. If you remember that game.
I do.
We were up at that game, and y'all were the nicest. It was our best experience at an away tailgate. We parked, and nobody was tailgating in the particular lot we were parked in at first, and then it kind of filled out, and every single tailgate in there offered us food. We ate things. We were drinking beer. People were giving us beer for free. We had a miraculously wonderful time, and the conditions could not have been worse. I mean, it was like that border of freezing and rain. And we just loved Huntington. People were so wonderful to us, and it really charmed us. So I just want to say that y'all made an awesome impression on me and the guys I do Armchair Mountaineers with and my friend group.
Well, the next time you come up, hopefully you'll be over at our tailgate, and Dom can tell you about some of the photos he's seen. He's not made it up there yet, but we are a little known for going out of the comfort zone for tailgates. try to go above and beyond and that sort of thing. So I would love to take your experience up a notch to the next level the next time you're in. But I had fun 2 years ago. You're going to have people telling you you're wearing the wrong colors and all that jazz, and never bothers me. Dom may remember, though, that I nearly broke my leg and had a big, gash over my eye here and was all bandaged up and everything. And we had to walk all the way up there, and it was already bad. But then the walk back, we walked all the way to the comfort suites, and I was on what I thought was a broken leg at the time, and it was not ideal. So a little less hills would be great in Boone, but I digress. Let's wrap it up with a couple of questions here. I don't have over-unders, so I'm going to do a pick 'em. And I want you guys to just tell me if you want to go into why you can. But right now, Appalachian Mountain Brewing or Lost Province?
I'll go Appalachian Mountain Brewing. I think that it was really close to my apartment when I first hit drinking age. So I pounded a lot of beers there, and I love the Longleaf IPA. So that's the answer for me.
Okay.
The Longleaf is solid. I've done both as well. I haven't been to AMB as much recently. Lost Province, to me, it's not hit or miss on like quality, but you could be waiting a while if you're not there at the right time. So I'll still recommend AMB for that, because you can kind of go to AMB and hang out even if you don't really have a spot. Whereas Lost Province being really an inside establishment, you can't, it's kind of miserable if you don't have a place to sit or stand real well, and they don't have that type of environment. There's also live music, which could be good, but it could be bad, because if you're too close to that, not necessarily a great situation if you're right beside the speaker or whatnot, which we had last time. It was very loud when we were in there with my wife and kids. So they didn't love that aspect. It wasn't bad music. I'm not putting anybody down. Sometimes live music in small venues just doesn't work out real well. And so I don't love the fact that sometimes you just have to put up with it. But yeah, quality of like food and drink is fine, but I'll recommend A and B. Wesley can let us know. Are they still doing like a food truck kind of situation, bring your own food type of thing there?
Well, to be honest, I haven't been in a long time. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I know they had a pizza truck, which was very good. Obviously, the pizza at Lost Province is very good. Again, it's just really different experiences. I think if you're going to A and B, don't go there because of the food, go there because of the beer and the ambiance. If you're looking to eat a full meal and looking for that full kitchen experience, that's going to be at Lost Province, and they do a good job of that. It's just two different experiences, as Dominic has described.
All right. So I've already mentioned Stick Boy, and you guys put them way up high too. So we're going to eliminate that. That's obvious number one. But others for breakfast: Sunrise Grill or Vicious Biscuit.
Sunrise Grill. That's easy for me. I don't have anything against Vicious Biscuit, and they actually have been giving some money to athletics. It's just, Sunrise Grill is just a staple, and I've been there a lot of times. I have some friends that still live in Boone that do a breakfast club there or at Troy's Diner, which Troy's 105 Diner, I also big recommend to either of those places. So yeah, for me, Sunrise Grill. Nothing against Vicious Biscuit, and to be honest, just to be frankly honest with you, have not been yet.
Yeah, I have. Wesley's going to be shocked to hear this. I've never been to either place, to be honest with you. But I just wasn't a big breakfast guy. I'm still not. Like, I eat like tiny stuff for breakfast, right? Like a yogurt and a banana is typically, all I really need. Some granola in there. But I will tell you, over the years that I've been there, the Sunrise Grill has glowing reviews from just about everybody I've ever talked to that's been. So if it was a place for breakfast, I would go there. I mean, everyone knows about Daniel Boone Inn as well, but unless you want to be miserably full and have the family style situation, I tend to avoid that. It's not bad food; it's just too much for me. And also, it's a healthy price because it's family style. So something like Sunrise, where you can all go in there and individually get what you want. Or the same thing at Troy's Diner. Like that's where I would go for like a breakfast if I was going to do so. But the other reason I don't go to those places is I'm arriving in Boone from a 3-hour drive. So I'm never there for breakfast.
Right. Yeah. I mean, most games that I come to, I'm driving an hour 40, hour 50 up the mountain. But I work a little bit in Boone. My real job, obviously, Armchair Mountaineers is not how I'm paying the bills.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. What I'll add to this, my rehearsal dinner was at Daniel Boone Inn, upstairs. They have an upstairs area, and it was up there. I remember that Marty Smith, when we had game day, hosted some interviews up there, and that was a few months after my wife and I had been married, and the table they were sitting at was the table we sat at our rehearsal dinner. So that's a great staple in Boone. But yeah, get in line early if you want to go there, and you're gonna eat 3,000 calories, which
Yes.
maybe idea before a game, to be honest. The only other honorable mention I'll give, that's something that used to just be a truck and is now moved onto King Street. Betty's Biscuits is really, really good. They have cool outdoor seating, and it can be sort of quick if you're coming in and going. And they have some really like off the wall biscuit combos. So Betty's Biscuits is great, and Summer does a great job there.
All right, so I'm sitting here. I can't remember if we went to Sunrise. I know we went in, but I think there was a long wait, and I cannot remember because it wasn't too far from the Comfort Suites that we were staying at, and we were trying to get out of town. It seems like we decided not to stick around, and I think it was like a 45-minute hour wait. We were like, we can be back up in Virginia by that time. Let's hit the road. My wife will have to remind me because, again, head injury and all when we were down there. All right. So we've talked about food, parking, tailgating, all that stuff, things to do in Boone. Let's talk a little bit about you guys and wrap this up. So, Dom, we're going to start with you. Tell us about the Sunbelt Syndicate, where they can find your content, because you're going to be previewing this game along with the entire slate of the Sunbelt. You're going to be doing a wrap-up show and all that stuff. You cover it all the time. Let's hear about Sunbelt Syndicate, and then we'll talk about Armchair.
Yeah, well, before I do that, one quick note. I got lucky enough to cover the Herd when they were in Cary, North Carolina last year for the national championship in soccer. I love interacting with the Herd faithful. I had a blast of a time. Obviously, it didn't go the way we wanted to in the end, but, we already know it's Cleveland State, the first matchup, right? On Thursday?
Thursday, yeah.
Okay, well, let's continue winning. I'd like to see the Herd faithful down in Cary, North Carolina once again. I am around the corner, so I will gladly jump over, and I think Russ will try and get down this time around if that does occur. So we'll knock on wood and cross fingers over here, but let's see that happen. But on the other side of things, we've got SunbeltSyndicate.com now. We've got some students from some Sunbelt schools helping us do some writing. We've got some people that just love the Sunbelt that are also helping us do that. We are Sunbelt Syndicate, mostly no spaces, all smashed together on just about every social platform you can think of, Twitter or X, as they're calling it now, right? We are Syndicate, which your favorite podcast you just interviewed last week, State of Atlanta, like to tell us that we should go with a cat mascot because we have Syndicate already there. It's just too easy. But yeah, we go live Wednesdays, but again, we do the video aspect as well as the audio, so you can catch it later as well. And then Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening, I guess I should say, we try and wrap up the whole thing. We are going to try and do a bourbon flavored show, if you will, this Wednesday. So we might mix up the typical look and feel of the show and just have a little bit more fun. That way, anybody's team who's terrible to the great teams can all show up and all have a good time and just kind of indulge in some fun trash talk and hanging out time.
I may have to tune into that with not only making the comments and everything, but join in with some bourbon. I mean, when in Rome, right?
There we go. I love it.
And now Armchair Mountaineers, I think October the 1st was maybe around the time that you guys kicked off with your first show, but you've been putting out, I think, 14, 15 now since then?
Something close to that. We're still getting into it and learning as we go. Right now we're audio only, so you can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We do post and are pretty active on our Twitter account. I, like Russ, struggle to say X. So you can find us there, Armchair MTNRS. We like to chime in and get into some stuff. So please follow us there. I started this podcast with my friends Reynolds, Phil, and Daniel. We have been talking about this for years. We love the Mountaineers and just felt like we wanted to add to the content that others are doing. Dominic does a wonderful job running Sunbelt Syndicate, and their content is amazing. We've followed their stuff since long before we were even planning this, and are excited to just be a part of what y'all are doing. Russ, great podcast as well. I've loved, just seeing the passion from you and just the Marshall faithful. So, I think y'all both do a great job, and I was very glad to be a part of this tonight. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure on this end. It's always great to talk to Dom. He and I've been, basically became friends over a few years' time since we've both been doing this. This will be the third football game I think that we have been to together. NC
correct.
State and Marshall, and then later that year at Boone, and then here back to Boone again. I'm going to get him up to Marshall soon. I promise you. I am.
Well, if oh gosh, what's the rivalry between you and West Virginia called for soccer?
The Mountain State Derby.
There we go. I wanted to come to that. Your athletics department, when I had misstepped with an interview with a baseball player, I ended up having a great conversation with them, and they said they would love to have me up there for that. And of course, it fell on Halloween. I was like, well, with a 7-year-old, you can't really disappear on Halloween night. So unfortunate that I couldn't do that.
Well, that was also in Morgantown this year on Halloween.
Oh, that's right.
It wasn't in Huntington, but I'm going to get you up here soon. I promise. Well, guys, we know a lot more now about our opponent, Appalachian State. Thanks to you guys for being on here. Appreciate your time. The Marshall faithful, I know, has appreciated listening to this. I think it's been a great show. So kudos to you guys, and best of luck this Saturday. I'll be down there. Hope to get up with both you guys, meet the other guys from Armchair, and we're gonna have a good time. But the way I always say it is, whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Joan, or whether you see us leaving Stick Boy to go over to the stadium, bring home a dub for the Thundering Herd. No matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, "Go Herd." It's the Thundercast, and we'll see you in a couple of days.